accurate reality podcast with Michael and Teresa. Today, we are talking Survivor US Season 47, Episode 10. For anyone who hasn't watched the show, there are massive spoilers ahead. In today's episode, after Tribal, Teeny is Incon-Sol-able. Genevieve returns to a reality as a big fish among very, very little fishies. And will Tuku finally tear itself apart? If you've missed the episode, you can catch all the action on your local streaming services. Survivor US Season 47, Episode 10, breakdown coming up.
Hello guys!
Hey everyone!
Thanks for joining us for our second video pod. What an ep! I thought it was a really good ep.
Yeah, it's a really good episode.
Wow, so Gabe, spoilers ahead, we're going to say it, okay? If you haven't seen the episode, catch up because we're going to spoil it. Gabe goes home. Oh, wow.
I think it was bound to happen though. Didn't you think? Yeah.
I thought he was, he made himself a very prominent threat, a very prominent figure. It was inevitable. He needed to get his allies before they got him because he was just making himself such a big target in the game, you know, that it was inevitable.
Yeah, I think so. And to be honest, I think even with the previous episode, I was surprised that he kept Kyle along for so long. And so we'll go further into that as we analyze his gameplay. But yeah, back to like the beginning. Well, we see Teeny is actually really, really upset that Sol has been voted out. She has not been part of the blind side. She feels like she looks stupid. No one has told her about the gameplay. And it's not the first time.
I feel bad for her because as she says, it's never nice to feel like you're on the outside of the information. And she's felt this way, I think. Well, she hasn't had any agency in the game for a long time. And I think losing Asia at first, well, she wasn't against Asia, but she wasn't with Asia either. But definitely losing Kishan and then Sol, her two closest allies in the game. I feel like, and now she thought she was working with Genevieve, her former Lavo tribe member, and now she feels, the way she expressed it was very interesting. She said, "You've made a fool of me. You've succeeded in almost making a fool of me." I think I've got the quote here. She says, "I'm sorry because you were so close to making me look stupid for no reason."
Yeah, I think so.
Which speaks to a lot about how she perceives herself, how she perceives others, how she perceives the game. I think she's bringing a lot of her own identity into this game, and she expresses that later in the game.
She does, yeah. And I think for her, I think her gameplay was probably, if you're my ally, I'm not going to lie to you. But then Genevieve, I guess, comes from a different point of view where she's like, hey, I don't actually want to form emotional connections because that's actually going to affect my gameplay.
Yeah.
And she explains it very succinctly to Teeny. It's like, yes, now you might not lie to me, but sometime further along in the game, you will have to if that's how you want to play. And this is Survivor. Like, it's not real world. Obviously, if this was real world, it's not great to lie. But this is Survivor. It's a game, and that's what you signed up for.
And it speaks to the differences in their personalities, in their generations, in their lifestyles, everything. I mean, Genevieve is a corporate lawyer. I mean, she is... Lawyers don't have the best reputation, for being honest, okay? I can say that because I have family members who are lawyers. And Teeny is a freelance writer. She makes a living out of being expressive and honest and open and being opinionated. She's from this generation, whereas Teeny is from maybe my generation, more millennial. And so
So Teeny is more from Gen Z, whereas Genevieve is from
Gen
our
X,
generation.
I think. Millennial, right? Oh, Gen Y, millennial. Yeah, and I get it all mixed up. But I can see the generational difference in the way they express themselves. Teeny is so open and expressive and open about her mental health and all these things that I notice this generation are very good at expressing.
It's not something you see my generation
I'm more like Genevieve style, put those emotions down and suppress them.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna cry, it really sucks.
Yeah, it's more like, have a tip, make the other person feel bad. I mean, as a couple, I think we've weathered our worst.
And they even say that, Genevieve, when they're talking to each other, they say, we are so different from each other, and it's so strange. Teeny is like, everybody tells me the truth, and Genevieve she assumes people in her everyday life are trying to trick her.
Yeah.
And so they come from such different life experiences, such different approaches into the game. And that's fascinating to see these two types of people collide in a game of Survivor. But I felt bad for Teeny in this game because she was so upset, so emotional.
And to be honest, so Teeny is very upset. And to be honest, to Genevieve's credit, she was actually very good, I think, at trying to repair the relationship. So straight after Tribal, she goes up to Teeny, hey, she said sorry, firstly, which I think is good because you do need an apology. It's not nice, like we know when you're kept in the dark.
She could have doubled down and said, like, that's the game, get over it, stop crying. But she was very empathetic and managed her emotions and her relationships really well. Genevieve is a shark.
Yeah.
She's a nice shark.
Yeah, she's a nice shark, and also, like, she actually does feel upset because, and you can't help it. Like, as much as you want to say it's a game, like, you do form emotional connections.
For sure.
And she was happy to let Teeny, like, kind of like be upset for a little bit and then just say, hey, let's talk when you actually feel ready. Because I know it's not nice to, like, feel like you're attacked, when you feel like you have to do something for your own game. And, it's.
When I think about the history of the game, only the true sociopaths can get away with burning people and not feeling anything towards them. Like, the Russells or the Richard Hatchers of the world, these true chaotic villains that can just totally lie to people, burn them, be dishonest to people they're working with, and not feel any regret afterwards.
And probably feel like even triumphant.
Yeah. That takes a certain type of personality, that kind of alpha personality that's super successful maybe in the real world. There are repercussions in Survivor.
Yeah, there are. And, I think, not just in Survivor, I think in real world as well.
Yeah.
And very oftentimes people who are extremely driven, who are very ambitious, probably are not very great at relationships.
Yeah. But Teeny shows how... I want to talk about Teeny a little bit more, how wonderful she is as an individual, because she has such an authenticity about her that I really appreciate. Her social game is so authentic and genuine, and the relationships she builds. As Sol went, she said, I love you.
I know.
And I genuinely believe it.
She had to write his name down.
Even though she had to write, and I believe it. And I think the way she's formed these relationships with people, even though she hasn't made any strategic moves that would count as points, I think if she gets to the end, she's going to get a lot of jury votes because she's so beloved. I can't recall a player that is this beloved that people want to... She's not a target, really. And people want to protect her in a way. They feel bad when they blindside her. Yeah. Watch out for her game.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as the meme of, like, her bag burning, in the fire, maybe it's just her shedding some sort of, like, baggage.
This was a metaphor. Like, she says, oh, this sucked, this was really bad. I thought straight away about that George Clooney film, Up in the Air, where he has that speech, right? Because he's known as the bad guy. And he talks about this speech as, like, how much does your life weigh? He's one of those promotional speakers, motivational speakers. How much does your life weigh? Imagine your whole life is in your bag. Well, Teeny, your bag burned, but so did your baggage. This is a wonderful thing. All the emotional baggage you're carrying, let it go. You're free now to play the game. Those people that you thought you needed, like Kishan and Sol, are gone. Now you are free to play with full agency and murder people and get rid of them and cut their throats. I love it. I think this is going to open up, not the bag burning. I think the bag burning is a metaphor. But I think her losing Sol, losing Kishan, and being actually hurt by Genevieve, her own ally, opens up a new avenue for her to really start playing this game with agency and to be motivated, to be really, like, active rather than passive.
Well, she kind of also has no choice. I mean, being burnt twice, I mean, you kind of, like, once bitten, twice shy. I mean, if you trust another person, you could get burned again, and that's just probably going to be a little bit stupid in the game of Survivor.
Yeah, she's definitely learnt now.
Yeah, I think she's definitely learnt now that you can trust, but I don't think you can totally fully trust.
You can't forgive. Can't forget. Yeah. You can forgive, but you can't forget.
Yeah. So I think, maybe hopefully this is the, the push, the kick that she needs to actually really play Survivor. And I hope so, like, because she has been very nice. It would be nice to see a little bit more of an arc with her, where she actually gets maybe to be a little bit more villainous. And
I want to see more out of her storyline for sure. She's got a lot of edit. We need to see more. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what Genevieve says. She says, I just didn't see my game going forward with Sol. Why do you think Genevieve couldn't work with Sol? where I think Sol definitely saw himself working with Genevieve, and they did have a kind of okay relationship. Why did Genevieve not connect with Sol?
Yeah, I was actually a little bit surprised by that as well, and I had to think about it a little more.
Yeah.
I think maybe, like, Sol, to be honest, I think maybe Genevieve might maybe be a little bit threatened by Sol. I don't think Sol is the most strategic player. Genevieve definitely is. But perhaps Genevieve, like she said, she's not here to form emotional connections, whereas I think Sol is kind of a little bit like Teeny. Like, he gets along socially very well with a lot of people. He's just chill. He's like the dude that you just want to hang out with. He just seems to have very nice energy. And I guess maybe a part of it is because he isn't so strategic. So people feel like they don't need to be as wary of him. And for that, like, he's probably the opposite to Genevieve. And, sometimes when you're the same and when you're the opposite, you just kind of like view them as threats.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. I think maybe she just felt like, I think first of all, Sol, when Lavo joined, when all the tribes joined, he immediately bonded with Teeny, but also maybe the other bros.
Like Kyle.
Yeah.
He's Sam. I think he's, yeah.
And also, Sol maybe as a part of his game isn't as duplicitous, deceitful, underhanded. I say these as bad words, but they're good things about Genevieve's game. He's very direct, open, and straightforward. As I said last week, if he's going to rob a house, he's going through the front door and leaving through the front door. Genevieve goes through the chimney. She's Santa Claus. You know what I mean? And she leaves a present.
Catwoman, actually.
Catwoman, yes, that's so much better. She's Catwoman, okay? Sol is a little bit, bull in a china shop. And I guess that didn't behoove Genevieve's game, who likes to plant little subtle ideas. And maybe she felt Sol could give her away, maybe, and wasn't as slick.
Yeah, I think so.
Could be. I don't know.
And also, I think, because I was also thinking, why did Genevieve put herself out there so early in the game, so early in merge? Like, it's only been a couple of like votes since merge. Like, why put yourself out there as like a big target? And I think the reason she did that is because she knows that there are still bigger targets, and she wants to make a move now before she's the only target. Like, now, if she makes this move on Sol, plan this blindside, she can claim it as hers.
Yeah.
And she has manipulated a lot of people to do that. She's very, very good at it. We all know. And if people look at her, well, there's still the Tuku 4, there's still Gabe, there's still Kyle.
Yeah.
She's not the biggest fish. Like, she's one of the big fish, definitely, but she's not the biggest fish. And there is the chance that she could probably just come underneath the radar enough to survive through one tribal, and then in which case she probably would be safe.
Yeah, interesting. Because when I saw this episode, last week I was full of praise for Genevieve, but this episode I was feeling nervous for her. And I thought, oh no, she messed up. She didn't cover her tracks well enough. She didn't disguise her intention. And she didn't make the ideas... She owned these ideas a little bit too much, perhaps, because everybody seemed to turn on her this week and say, she's the big player. And I think she realizes that, and she said, I've got to make myself small suddenly. And I was afraid for her, and I thought, okay, she misplayed this. But you're right. If she's calculated the timing of this well, she can slink back into anonymity, and people may just forget about her.
Yeah.
Because there are lots of big threats out there on this island.
There are lots of big threats. I mean, like Tuku is a huge big four threat. I mean, there's still a power couple between like Sue and Gabe, power couple between Sue and Caroline.
Yep.
So she can still fly under the radar and still kind of survive. But if she makes a blindside later on in the game, there might not be enough shields to protect her.
Yeah. You only get away with a move or two like this in a game.
You can't do it every game.
You can't do it every week. Before people catch on. So she's made her, I feel like, her big first move of the season. It was a good one too.
Yeah, and it will be like quite some time before she make another move.
Yeah.
If she does.
Now it's about building nice, consolidating relationships with people around her, like Andy, like Sam, Teeny, if that's salvageable. And just consolidating numbers. Yeah.
Well, actually, speaking of Andy, we've seen quite a metamorphosis within his his journey.
He's gotten hot. He's got hot, if I may say so myself. He's gone from this chubby, awkward guy. Now he's got the goatee, the long hair, the confidence, the hair flick. Dude, he's feeling himself. I'm afraid that when a guy like that feels himself a little bit too much, they get a bit careless, a bit cocky.
Like, he's kind of become become a Chad.
He's become a Chad. Andy's become a Chad. Holy moly. Giga Chad. Wow. He got featured a lot this week. It's interesting how, like, he says it himself. Now he is the high school star, and Sam is the one walking up to him and, oh, dude, what are you doing this weekend? You got any plans? Or can I come to the party? And now Andy's like, yeah, I'll see. Wow. How a day can change things. What a difference a day makes.
Yeah, it does.
And I noted something else. Andy has got not only the most confessionals, but 5 of the last episodes have been named after Andy quotes. And I've got them here. Okay, so toil in the soil, loyal to the soil.
Yeah, he used it on Kyle, yes.
Nightmare fuel. Here's all that. Feel the FOMO. And, okay, I said 5, but there's actually only 4. But the last 4 episodes have been Andy quotes. That speaks to not only his quotability, but how the editors and producers see him as a character in this show.
Yeah, okay? And I think he really plays up as well. Like, he's funny. Like, it's hard to be funny, I think, when you're in confessionals, but he definitely, he comes across as very personal. He's not afraid to make fun of himself. But not nasty either. Yeah, but not in a nasty way. He's just like, he's just funny. And I have to say, like, I think, he's grown very much on us. Yeah, people are getting fond of him. I've noticed in the webosphere, people are really, he's growing on people. His web is spreading, as he says. Well, actually, I think, hold on. Like, I think, because, so we do have, like, Facebook posts that we post, and just, like, I think there was one post where we asked, oh, is anybody, like, becoming a fan of Andy? Actually, it has actually been quite polarizing. I think it's either, like, a love or hate relationship with Andy. Yeah, interesting. He's got the doofus element to him, and he's got the cool element to him, so we'll see which one breaks through. But the confidence is nice to see, this new affirmed confidence. And wow, the island really does take off pounds. If the camera adds 10 pounds, Survivor Island takes off 20 pounds. Yeah. I want to go to Survivor Island for a makeover. That sounds great for the... Honey, you always look good, All right. Honey, you're the most handsome guy I know. Oh, this is why I married her. Can I ask for more? Okay, so speaking of other power couples, Rachel and Andy. What do we think of that? Yeah. So this super Asian power couple forming... They're coming together finally. They actually look good together. So, in Chinese, we have this thing that's called Fu Qi Xiang. It's what it means is couples that actually look kind of similar to each other. It's not good. We got a phone call. Maybe we can... put that away. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. But they got sort of like opposite features-ish that, kind of look good together. But it's interesting how they've circled each other in terms of the game, but now it looks like they may work together. And I think they're going to do a lot of damage. Because even though they're big players, nobody's been looking at Andy or Rachel. Because they've been on the outside of their tribe in Garda for so long, and people kind of underestimate them. I think they'll fly through a couple more votes before people even realise how dangerous these guys are. Yeah, I think so. And a lot of people are coming to them with ideas too. Yeah. They are just, like Sandra, like just, they don't need to pitch ideas. Ideas are coming to them, which is how you want this game to play. Yeah, and I think because now they've kind of like all lost their plus ones. Rachel has lost Annika. Andy, like, he's always been on the bottom, so I think people at the bottom, there is a hierarchy in Survivor, but what happens is the hierarchy changes. Yeah. Whoever's at the top will become the bottom, and then they find themselves like scrambling, and then after that it kind of like slowly move into the middle again. So I feel like that's what's happened with Andy and Rachel. They were at the bottom for quite a while. Now they're starting to become like, like kind of like the power couple in the middle. And well, rightly so, they look great together. Look great together. Can I say, how cute does Rachel look with freckles on her face? Yeah, I love it. Freckles look cute. I like freckles. Yeah, on like an Asian person. I don't see that very often on Asian complexions. Like, Asian complexions, but because we've been warned like since young to like stay out of the sun and everything. But I think she looks really good. She looks great. Yeah. We like you, Andy, Rachel. You are the new Asian Barbie and Ken Asian edition. Okay, so then we get to the challenge. And as predicted, Kyle, Sam, Rachel, whoever put this team together, unfair, they dominate. So they go on to Sanctuary? They go into Sanctuary where good things happen. I feel like there was an idol here waiting to be found, but
nevertheless, we haven't seen much idol hunting this season, right?
No, we haven't seen much idol hunting, especially not when there's been rewards. I feel like it's a lot more prevalent in the Australian version where there always tends to be something.
Yeah.
But this one, we haven't seen anyone really like trying to look for anything.
Idols. Where's the idol hunting, guys? We want to see more idol hunting montages. So a couple of things happen during the challenge. Kyle, Sam, and Rachel dominate. Andy bites a ball, which is weird. And what happens? They go to reward and they eat rice. Yeah. Which is, Rachel, could you be any more Asian, girl? Come on now. She's like happy to eat rice.
She's really, really...
which is weird. I thought really rice was sort of a staple they got given on the island anyway. So I'm surprised it's gotten to day 18 only now. They've gotten it as a reward.
Yeah, because I think in Australian Survivor, people normally have, I think, like rice, beans, and coconut.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how that's different on American Survivor. Maybe it's just coconut and beans, I guess.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Normally in the past, it's rice has always been a staple. Otherwise, what do they eat? I'd love to know. If you know, help us out. What do they subsist off down there in Fiji? So
and there becomes like I guess a kind of like a planning, I guess.
Kyle.
Between Kyle, Sam, and Rachel.
Yeah, Kyle plants the idea of Gabe, and this is really smart of Kyle. I didn't realize Kyle was this much of a player, but he realizes that he's got to get Gabe before Gabe gets him, and that Tuku is a very ominous threat. They're like, you know, the dark side of the force. There's 4 of them intermerged. They're almighty. They're voting together. They're really strong, and Kyle is really aware here to be, you know, to make this pitch.
Yeah, I mean, well, like I said, I think, I was surprised that Gabe didn't get rid of Kyle, like, you know, last episode, in order to kind of minimize the threat of Tuku. And, you know, it looks like it might come back to haunt him.
Yeah. So this is the common community idea that they can all get behind, which Kyle pitches. And it's very intelligent. Because he needs to pitch an idea that they can, as I say, get behind. It's nothing, it has to be a community idea.
Yeah.
Which is, Tuku is getting too strong. Everyone has been clipped since merge, one from Lavo, one from Garda, but no one's got from Tuku.
And they stood very strong, very steady at the last voting.
Yeah.
And that is a huge threat because they are a 4 block.
Yeah. And so that's the one idea. The other idea that gets pitched is Genevieve from Rachel. And Rachel says about Genevieve, she's onto me. What is she onto?
Okay, so I think Rachel and Genevieve, they're quite similar in the way they play the game. I think they kind of like to be like the undercurrent, you know.
As she describes it, I don't want to be the boat or the captain, I want to be the ocean.
Who says that?
I think that's Rachel.
Okay.
But that's an interesting idea.
They want to play a more subtle game.
Yeah.
You know, and they're very similar in that way. And so I guess they kind of like, you know, when you're very similar with someone, you know, you kind of like pick it up of that person. It's like, hey, she's playing the same game as me. Well, there can only be one person playing this game, and that's me, you know? So you kind of have to take the other one out.
Yeah, the skinny, tall, pretty girl role is taken, Rachel. There can't be 2 of us in this.
Yeah, they kind of be. And I think it's very interesting when you have, like, say, like, you know, Rachel and Genevieve kind of like targeting each other. You know, you have the boys obviously targeting the boys, you know, so other, like so like I think maybe boys will just see each other, well, physical, strategic chat, you know, General trying to marshal his army.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that they put their feet next to the food on this challenge reward, which I find absolutely disturbing, that they would have a foot bath next to a fruit platter. Guys, basic hygiene. Let's not do the platter next to the foot bath thing, please. It just irks me so hard. Like, foot splash onto fruit, you eat the fruit, you're eating your foot, you're putting your foot in your mouth. Ugh.
But it's Survivor though. I mean, they haven't eaten anything proper in like 2 weeks. Okay, so if I
I have OCD phobias. I have to wash my hands. I have to wash my feet. Like, okay.
Yeah, okay, but I think if I put like a foot bath next to like a tray of pizza and pasta, you would like, you know, you would still be washing your foot and eating pizza and pasta at the same time. I think so.
Not next to that. No.
Okay.
No. Okay, so Rachel also makes Sam earn her trust back a little bit because in the last episode, Rachel said, "Don't blow up my game," and Sam's like, I ain't gonna blow up your game. Hey, Sol, I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
So Rachel is a little bit skeptical about working with Sam. Can they work together again?
Well, I think like take it with a grain of salt. Like, you know, when you have to work with him, work with him. When you can't work with him, then, you know, don't.
They're calling themselves the outsiders, this Gata and Lavo tribe, but really they're the majority. They're just the unformed majority, you know, whereas the Tuku are the strong minority, you know, who are unified. And a strong 4 is stronger than an ununified 5, which is very interesting. It speaks to group dynamics and the power of people.
And I think, to be honest, the Tuku 4, I think that's more an idealization by Gay, because we know that within the 4, there actually are factions who want to kill each other.
Literally, kill each other. Okay, let's get to that, huh? Sue v. Kyle. Oh my gosh, we haven't seen this much, we haven't seen this footage, okay? And they just, the show just unloaded
this ferocity
this ferocity of montage. Like, they've been saving it for this episode where they just dropped like 20 clips of Sue. Like, wow, this shows how much can be held back in the edit, right? Like, you don't know until you see these kind of bits.
And they really saved the best for last. I mean, to be honest, I think Kyle has only written maybe her name once or twice.
And only because he couldn't vote for TK.
Yeah, like there's a group of 6, you know, in Tuku. Like, you have to vote for somebody.
And Sue is not letting bygones be bygones.
Sue is not teeny. Let's just say that.
Oh man, she's the ferocity at which she speaks about Kyle. I'm gonna kill him. I'm got his throat. I fucking hate him. Sorry about the language. Beep. Like, just ferocious language and attitudes towards Kyle. I was very taken aback by this. I was very surprised.
Yeah.
And I think it's only a matter of time before they turn on each other.
Yeah, just a matter of time.
If these other tribe members have seen Sue unload, they must be looking at this as a crack they can exploit. The only problem is every challenge seems to go to Kyle and Sue.
Yeah,
so,
and I think, to be honest, probably Sue would have wanted to vote Kyle off previous episode, but it's just because Gabe had the immunity. He kind of like had the power. He probably had to, like, you know, talk Sue out of it and be like, hey, you know, we'll still be safe going forward with Kyle, you know, let's not bump the boat.
Wow, so I guess as a concept, we're seeing 2 ideas germinating in the tribe at this point. We're seeing Kyle on one side, Gabe on the other, okay? The community seems to be forming between these 2 ideas, and underneath that, Genevieve is being pitched. So I think, you know, Gabe is trying to pitch Kyle, Kyle's trying to pitch Gabe, Sam is trying to pitch Gabe, and then on the underneath that, Teeny is pitching Genevieve and Rachel is pitching Genevieve, which is very interesting to see how this goes. Yeah.
So, like, men pitching men, women pitching women?
Kind of, yeah. It's interesting though that, and also in the tribe, Kyle is getting a lot of vote popularity, which I didn't see happening. So Gabe says, oh, you know, if we went to the final 3 with Kyle, he would win tribal. He would win votes. That's what Gabe says, and I think a couple of other players have that sentiment. I think the sentiment is that Kyle is from a working class background. He's from Mississippi, I think it is, which is a poorer state. He's a labourer. He's got 2 kids. He's a family man.
He's a family guy.
He's extremely sympathetic to jury votes. People want to see him win $1 million than, say, a corporate lawyer from Boston.
Yeah.
And
his story is just a lot more
I want to give him $1 million.
Yeah.
You know, and if I had $1 billion, I'd give him $1 million. He's so sweet, you know? And also he's won a lot of challenges. And so I think a lot of the other tribe members are pitching the idea that he cannot go any further because he's going to get a lot of votes, jury votes, and he's good at challenges. Which is true, but if you're going to get him, you should have got him last week when he wasn't immune, dodos. Hey, yo, he didn't win challenge last week. Then was the time to kill him.
Because then, in that case, Sue would have won this challenge.
Yeah. So, what else did I want to talk about here? So, Sam returns to tribe after the reward, okay, and talks about unifying everyone behind an idea. And it's interesting, Sam's type of leadership. You know, he can't help himself in a way. he was on the bottom for a little bit, but then he can't help but being an alpha male. You know what I mean? Like, rather than pitching people behind an idea of community interest, like Kyle, he sort of takes an authority version of leadership. So there are a couple of types of leadership. One is building behind a community ideal, and the other is building behind the charisma of the leader. You know? And I feel like he pitches ideas behind his own charisma, which is going to be his downfall, ultimately. Because he's a big threat. He's a big guy. He's a big threat. Anyway, I didn't have much to say on that. But, yeah, interesting how his leadership style, even when he's on the bottom, reverts to this, you know.
I think the way he talks. I think sometimes, the way you come across, like, you know, the way you talk, it's very much like, okay, hey, let's do this. I mean, he plays basketball or something?
He plays sports.
Yeah, and that's very much the talk that, you know, I think like sports people, they do. Let's do this, let's do that. You know, I'm going to counteract that and say, well, when it came to, like, you know, losing the shot in the dark, he actually did succumb to
we're going to get to that.
Yeah, within the group, and he actually did, I guess, put community first.
That's true.
But probably... But
more
again,
due to
that's
peer
also
pressure.
still, but that's more like peer pressure, and also that's also in his interest.
Let's talk about that when we get to that, because that's a good point. So before we get to that, though, we see Teeny talk about her mental health and her identity, her sexuality, being non-binary in a binary world. Oh, it must be confusing in the real world, let alone on an island where, you know, everything is magnified and reduced and put onto the screen. You know what I mean? I feel for her here. She feels like she's going through it right now. Yeah,
she does. And, I mean, like we said that before, like, you know, early on in this podcast. So I think she definitely suffers from, like, some identity crisis. And,
challenges.
Yeah, challenges. And I think being on Survivor as a game, it doesn't, you know, it can really add to it. You know?
For sure.
Yeah, it's a very high pressure game. You know, you're on TV, you know, you're going to be viewed by millions. You don't know how you're going to look to the public. You know, it can be very nerve-wracking.
People underestimate that aspect to it, I think, because there's, you know, going without food, going without the comforts, playing all these challenges, but there's also the scrutiny of being filmed and having to perform 24/7 and then having to find how your identity fits in with these strangers on an island. It's a lot. So kudos to Teeny. Thank you for being so open and honest and vulnerable. I think it takes a lot of bravery to do that. And, you know, good on her. Yeah,
good on her. Okay, so let's move on to the challenge. Okay, so we find out that, you know, everyone is in favor of losing the shot in the dark to get some rise, except for Sam.
This is weird. Yeah. So it's the peer pressure of community interest versus self-interest, right? For me, I've never seen the power of a shot in the dark because it's not a mechanic that we're really used to. But obviously, neither do they, because they're all willing to give up their shot in the dark for a bag of rice. But, you know, it is your last gasp. It is good if you have no power, no agency, no social capital. But they only needed 4 people to volunteer to give this up, which is interesting. I mean, I just would have gone, Andy, Caroline, Teeny, Genevieve, take a seat. You know what I mean? See you later. You're not winning this. You ain't ever winning this. You 4, over there. We get rice. You can have a double portion tonight. But I think what you said when we were watching this is putting 4 people out versus putting everyone out. Yeah.
So I think for me, when I was watching it, because I was like, oh, why don't 4 people like just put up their hands, you know, for it? Even though they know, like, the chances of winning, it's like 1 in 9. It's a very slim chance. You know, and you know when you're playing games, like if you're good at it or not.
And I said before this challenge, Kyle, Sue. You know, we watching it know who's going to win this.
Yeah.
You know, because like, they've won every other challenge.
Yeah, or if there's like some physical challenge, you know, like, okay, the boys are going to do quite well, Gabe, Sam. You know your place, in the physical challenges. So I thought it was interesting that like 4 people didn't put their hands up. But then again, maybe if Kyle hadn't suggested, why doesn't everyone give up the shot in the dark? I think 4 people probably would have.
Yeah,
but then once he had put that out there, then, that's the next thing that, had to be addressed.
But it speaks to, I think, do people really value the shot in the dark? And if so, do we need it? Do you know what I mean? Is it a mechanic that is really necessary in this game? If people are just willing to just sell it for a ninth of a bag of rice, how powerful is it? It's a 1 in 6. The definition of a shot in the dark is literally a long shot. Something that is against the odds, not likely to happen. So I don't think it's a mechanic that really has great value in the game. I don't love it. So the fact that these 9 players are willing to just flick it off and rely on their own agency and gameplay for the rest of this game, I think speaks volumes.
I think so.
I don't think we need it.
No, I don't think we need it. And I think also, it feels like, okay, if we're all going to eat rice, maybe everyone just sacrifice a little bit rather than actually have 4 people, sacrifice themselves. Even though, these 4 people who, if they put their hand up, they probably were not going to get the immunity anyway.
But a vote is more powerful than a shot in the dark anyway when the numbers are small anyway.
Which is what Gabe
sells.
Sam.
I don't think Gabe should have said that because I think it put the target squarely on his back because it put him as someone who is reasonable, articulate, strategic, convincing, maybe even a little bit manipulative.
And look, Sam already has kind of like his sights on Gabe, and to kind of like have him putting the peer pressure on you is even going to like reinforce that even more.
It put him on the spot.
Yeah.
It put Sam on the spot where Sam felt like if he went against this, all 8 people would have been looking at him. And Gabe really said, like, all 8 of us are down for this except for you. You're going to take away rice from the whole tribe.
Well, actually, I think Genevieve was actually... because if you look at the screen, when Sam was considering, Genevieve actually was considering it as well because I'm sure she knows that she's on the bottom.
Yes.
People are looking at her. So she really missed a shot in the dark as she confessed it in Tribal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So... a few things about this that are very interesting, layers upon layers. I don't like the shot in the dark. I don't like Gabe's pressure. I do like Sam giving it up because I think that's a smart, shrewd move.
Yeah.
But if we didn't do... like, apparently also the shot in the dark only lasts until the final 7. I don't think it's something we need going forward in this gameplay. So... just our opinion. If you feel differently...
we like old school gameplay.
If you feel differently, please let us know how it can be used in interesting ways. I've seen some highlights, and I think it's only been used successfully once in the past by Caleb in Survivor 45. There may be other examples. Please teach us, reach us and teach us, so we can be better.
Yeah. Okay, well, one point about the shot in the dark while we're still there. If it was available, if Jeff hadn't taken it away, or if they had not swapped it for rice, do you think Gabe would have used his shot in the dark at Tribal, knowing that he might have been voted out? Because we know Genevieve was considering it.
Yeah, no, I don't think he would have. Because I think he was counting on his Tuku staying strong. So that's already 4 votes. And then maybe even bringing over someone like... I don't know where he would have got that 5th vote from. But I still think Gabe was had a bit of a blind spot in understanding where the numbers really were.
Right, and also he did say to Sam that was his argument, was that your vote is actually more valuable than a shot in the dark. So
and you're still here.
And so for him, he would have felt like I'll rather use my vote than to rely on a shot in the dark.
Yeah. We'll talk about this later, but I think one of Gabe's, as I'm repeating myself, but I think Gabe's weakness is understanding where the real power lay in the numbers. And I really think that he thought the numbers were with him this vote, and that if he had taken a shot in the dark, his Tuku 4 goes to a Tuku 3, and then it's probably a 4-4 split at best between he and, say, Genevieve, and then it goes to Rox. I think he knew he needed every little last vote at this point. And like a shot in the dark is when you know you're truly, truly, truly at the bottom. You have nothing left. Everybody is saying, hey, it's you. You know what I mean? And you have no friends.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing, I think.
I mean, during the scrambling, so just before Tribal, so once they found out that Carl had actually won immunity, I think people were actually quite open about saying, oh, hey, I think it's actually Gabe versus Genevieve. And they said it to their face. And I think they would never have said that before if the shot in the dark existed.
True. But in that case, do we need a shot in the dark? If you're a bad player and you can't get the numbers behind you, then why should you have a chance to come back in this game? Do you know what I mean? The game ultimately is about social capital, getting the numbers. It's an election. Every tribal is an election. Who's the best politician to rally the numbers behind your cause? And if you're unable to rally those numbers inherently, why do you deserve a 1 in 6 chance to get through anyway? You know? Yeah. At least an idol can be earned. A shot in the dark is literally a random Russian roulette.
Yeah,
you know? Yeah. I just don't see the value in it in determining the best survivor player at the end of the season, which is what I want. So, as I said before, if we're wrong, please reach us and teach us. I want to see it. Anyway, it ends up as we predicted. Sue and Kyle. Sue has amazing balance. Had she got rid of Kyle before, as you said, she would have been winning this challenge.
She would have won it. And, you know, Gabe could actually have been saved because, well, Sue will have majority power.
Yes.
You know?
How ironic.
Yeah.
You know, so if Sue had gotten rid of Kyle, as we said, she would have been the challenge beast, had immunity power. People are more inclined to vote with her inclination. Gabe would be safe this week. How things would have changed.
Yeah, I think so. I think maybe her kind of like her... Maybe her weak point, like she's got many strong suits, like Sue, very good at challenges, you know. But I think probably her weak suit was maybe relying a little bit too much on Gabe
and Caroline, maybe too.
Yeah,
timing of moves, because we see that she's wanted Kyle out for some time, but she hasn't been able to rally the numbers to her cause, which is indicative, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like she's kind of listened to Gabe rather than have her own agency. To be honest, like. It's going to be, like, she probably felt really good and she probably feels really bad now, but that actually could open up her game a lot more.
Yeah. We'll talk about it in that in a second, because before we get to that, I just want to give Kyle props for being a challenge beast.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Kyle, kudos to you, dude. You are one step away from immortality of joining the great Colby Donaldson, Ozzy Luzuth, Tom Westman, Brad Culpepper, and Boston Rob, and a couple more as being the only people to ever win 5 individual immunity challenges. You're at 4 with like 8 players left. That's incredible. Yeah. You will go down in Survivor Immortality if you can get to 6. Like 5 is considered challenge beast. Like
he has a great chance to win a lot of them, and I think. So his physicality, his balance is very good. He's very live, very graceful, very strong in a way, and also very precise.
Surfer body.
Yeah.
Body.
But I think
dancer body.
But we also need to consider the fact that probably aren't many people that are up to challenge him in terms of physicality this tribe.
This is the least athletic casting I've ever seen. This is a bunch of... Well, they've got the physiques of graphic designers and writers. Let's just say that, okay? Nothing wrong with that. I used to be a graphic designer, okay? But, hey. They're just not... This isn't the most physical tribe. He's the only one who actually really works with his body as a construction worker. Yeah. So he's got his run over these people. But Sue, kudos to you once again.
Yeah, she's been incredible. Amazing. She's really incredible, you know. And I know we always say this for her age, but it is incredible for her age. Yeah,
man, she's 59 and she's dominating these challenges. If she was actually 48, she would be smashing all of them. I would have loved to have seen her enter this show in her 30s or 40s, which is only a couple of years ago, according to her, because she would have killed these young kids. These Generation Y's X's are amazing physically. That's how we used to be back in the day. We didn't play on computers. We went outside to play, okay? And she's showing these youngins how it's done. Alright, so you're going to talk about Sue and the way she's going to react to being blindsided. And I think the difference between her... The way she'll react to Caroline betraying her, and
my face is already showing my emotions.
Okay. But the way Sue reacts to Caroline, how will it contrast with the way Teeny reacts to Genevieve? Stop.
Very, very much. I think it would be a huge contrast.
Oh, I can't wait.
Oh God. Firstly, I mean, if Sue takes so much offense to Kyle putting down her name once, imagine what she will.
What will she do to Caroline? Because they have a mother-daughter-like relationship, but this is betrayal.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like she will probably.
She's not going to take it.
She's not going to take it. She's not going to take it well. Firstly,
hell no.
I don't think she's going to be very outwardly angry, but she's probably because her relationship with Caroline is very different from her relationship with Kyle. Kyle, she does not like. She wants out. But Caroline, she has she'll feel betrayed. And it's a very bitter feeling.
Yes.
And so I think she might, I don't know, it's either like rage out maybe, or just kind of like, but revenge. I feel like, okay, I'm going to tolerate you for a little bit more, but at one time I will probably need to get revenge on you because I absolutely do not trust you anymore.
This is going to be fascinating. It's going to open up the game so much. I can't wait to see it. Oh, how Sue will react. She does not suffer disloyalty kindly, and now she's had her, island son, Gabe, taken out.
It's like your daughter killing your son. I mean, how are you going to
it's like the Penguin. It's like the Penguin storyline all over again. Oh, what will we do? Oh, this is crackers.
I mean, at least Gabe has not lied to her. He's actually been completely honest to her. Sue is very much like, very straight. I think she's not a Gen X. She's a baby boomer?
Yes.
They tend to be very independent, pragmatic. She's not going to be like, I feel sad about this. Let's talk about it. She's going to kill. She's not going to show her emotions.
But the thing is, I don't know how much social capital Sue has to really make a move. She may just have to go with the flow.
Yeah. Because
I don't think she has the same relationships with anyone on the tribe left other than Caroline. So really, maybe Andy a little bit. But Andy's a bit of an island, let's just say it, okay, island hoe. He's with everyone. Okay, but Sue doesn't have capital with everybody. She needs to maybe do what Caroline does to her. She needs to maybe take it and play along nicely.
Yeah.
Until she creates that capital with people.
And I'll be curious to see how Caroline actually, will she apologize? Like how Genevieve apologizes to Teeny and say I feel really bad about this. Because Caroline hasn't really shown that much expression or vulnerability, I think, in the show.
No. She's a strategy consultant though.
Yeah.
So this is kind of right up her alley of making moves at the right time. That's what she gets paid to do. And she saw this as an opportune move.
Yeah.
If it wasn't Gabe was going to come for Kyle. She needs Kyle's untouchable. Genevieve, she just couldn't rally the numbers. So, yeah. And so we get to Tribal. Okay. And Sol comes back like a buff Asian Robbie Williams. Oh my lord. Who knew that Sol dresses in sleeveless vests? Without the shirt. And the rain.
At his age too, which is 40 something. Yeah.
Who knew? I thought he was going to come out just wearing corporate attire or activewear.
I could not get you to wear that.
I couldn't pull it off even if I tried. Sol, you're looking like Simu, Barbie and Ken. You and Sierra came out looking like Simu, Ken and traditional Barbie.
Yeah, traditional Barbie. Beach Barbie.
Beach
actually.
Barbie. That was hilarious.
Yeah.
See, you pull it off. You pull it off,
yeah,
Sol.
Yeah, he pulled it off, yeah. His hair was slicked back. He had his earrings.
The guy's got style. Yeah. Who knew? Sierra still looks pissed. Right? Sierra looks pissed.
Or maybe they just show the edits where she kind of looks pissed.
She's not smiling. Because what happens is, people get to Ponderosa, Tribe, Jury Villa, and they get hot. There must be someone there who's like, okay, we're going to give you, here's your wardrobe, here's your clothes. You lost the game, but here's your chance to rub it in with those starving people there about how hot you can be. And it's always this thing, right, where they come back to jewelry.
And especially for women, I think, suddenly you got your hair done, your nails done, your makeup,
And it's like, stuff you starving bitches, you may have voted me off, but look how beautiful I am.
Well, revenge is, looking good is always the best revenge.
Right? I've noticed that's a pattern.
Yeah. I mean, remember, Princess Diana, her revenge dress after, Charles and Camilla came out.
Yeah, iconic.
Yeah, iconic, yeah.
Okay. So Rachel and Teeny do some good work with the jury here, I noticed. They really flatter the jury by saying, oh, those jury people, Sierra and Sol, they were the biggest threats. That's why they had to go. They're not the weakest. They're the best. That's why they're there.
So really flatter them,
Putting in that early work.
Yeah,
to get those votes down the line.
Yeah, oiling their ego a little bit.
Oiling their ego. Not that Sol needs any more oil because he looks slick. All right. So Andy says, yeah, we're going threat hunting.
Yeah. Okay, so the question I want to put out there is, we know that Gabe goes home. Do you think there was a chance that Genevieve could have been voted out instead of Gabe?
Heck yeah. But I think the bigger idea that was inherent in everybody's minds, back of everybody's minds, was Tuku has 4. So even though Genevieve is dangerous, we can still get her next week. But the bigger idea is Tuku 4. If we let them go through another vote, it goes them 4 versus us 4 outliers, outsiders.
Yeah.
And we are screwed.
Yeah.
Because Kyle's going to continue to dominate challenges. So is Sue.
Yeah.
We're never going to get a shot at them. I think the bigger idea that everyone could rally behind is get rid of a Tuku.
Yeah, and I feel like this is where Genevieve was actually very smart. I mean, I didn't realize it in that time. In the timing that she planned her blindside on Sol, her big move that she can claim was that she did it when there was still very big players, very big, threats out there, so that she can kind of like hopefully fly under the radar. And, it works.
Yeah, it does. It does.
It works, yeah.
And it wouldn't have worked without Caroline, I think, also adopting this idea, and Kyle too, adopting this idea of someone you won't work with is as much of a threat as someone who is blocking your path. And that's Caroline's quote. Because it took some gall for Caroline to rise up against Sue here and to make a move. I think this will be looked upon as Caroline's move this week. This is the week, this move will go on her resume probably, where Gabe gets out. I didn't like how Gabe says you got a little bit of a snake in you, don't you?
Yeah,
that was nasty.
That wasn't very nice. Especially when he was the one that, was a bit of a snake to TK in the very beginning.
He's had some moves of his own. He knows the game.
Yeah.
So to say that to someone like Caroline as your parting words, that was mean, man.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Well, should we analyse his gameplay?
Yes. Okay. Sorry, the dog's just at the door. I'm just going to close the door. I think Gabe built a tremendous alliance within Tuku. I think that was what the strongest part of his game was. The weakest part of his game is that he was confined to his alliance with Tuku. And he didn't spread outside of that to create social capital with people outside of that. So it became very much a blue versus orange type of scenario, red and yellow. And the thing about Gabe is the way he spoke about his tribal allies early on is indicative of how he sees people. He talked about them as being his little birds, about it being his tribe, about
he's the shepherd,
he's the shepherd,
lamb.
they're his lambs. He kind of saw people as pawns rather than real people, say the way Teeny sees them, real emotional bodies that you need to really empathize and connect with, and you form true, genuine relation. This is a relationship game after all. It's not a numbers game.
Yeah.
It's not. Only mathematicians and accountants work in numbers. Survivor works in relationships. And I think that was the weakness to his game, because he needed to create true emotional connections with people who would really protect him to the end.
Yeah. And I think perhaps... so to be honest, he did really well keeping the Tuku 4 together. They were very steady in the previous tribal.
Yeah.
That
was his highlight, I think.
Yeah, his highlight also, I think, was also protecting Kyle. Because Kyle very easily, I think, would have been the number one vote to get voted out. But he used his power to be like, okay, hey, Kyle is good for my game. He's essential. I want to protect him. Let's stand strong in this. Let's not scramble. Let's stand strong. But yeah, like you said, I think his weakness is not being able to see that he's a threat. Like, I think he saw... Because he continuously pitched to his other alliance members like, hey, if we go on to the next one, this is a 4 that's really good for us. But not realize... Well, I'm sure he realized as well that this probably would not be good for other people, but perhaps not to put himself in Caroline's position or Kyle's position as to like what's good for them.
Yeah. And not to realize also that Kyle was going to shoot him if he wasn't going to shoot Kyle.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he wasn't that mad at Kyle.
Yeah, because he wasn't mad at Kyle. Like, he was like, okay, good game, brother. He would have figured out by now that Kyle shot him. But then he was just like, well, I was going to do it to him anyway. So, fair's fair. You just got me first.
But he was pissed at Caroline.
Yeah, he was pissed at Caroline.
Because he never saw Caroline as an independent individual.
Yeah.
He thought Caroline would always do what he wanted her to do. And the fact that she didn't do it that one time... He called her a snake.
Yeah, I mean, he says the reason, he liked Kyle was because he knew where Kyle was gonna vote.
Oh, that's a good.
But then, and he obviously thought he knew where Caroline was gonna vote. He did not. That pissed him off.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? That's so interesting. And then he says, "I'll be back," like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and not to the tribe, but he says it to Jeff.
Oh God!
And Jeff's like, "I'm the exec producer and the host for 47 seasons, bro. I think I'll decide that. You know what I mean? Leave your resume at the door. We'll call you, dude. You don't say, I'll be back to Jeff Probst. You say it to Sue. You say it to Sue, you go, I'll be back, Sue. Or to Kyle. But to Jeff Probst, the one guy that can say, no.
Yeah.
What does he mean?
You leave your saltiness at the door when you talk to Jeff Probst.
I think he means he'll be back for some kind of, second chance island. Obviously, there's no redemption island.
Do you think he'll be back?
No. I think... Okay, let's talk about... Okay. Of the players that are gone, who do you think deserves redemption, a second chance? A second chance. Okay, so we got John Lovett, Sierra, Annika, Gabe, TK, Sol, Asia, Kishan. Which of those players... And Rome.
Yeah. Well,
which of those players do you think the show would invite back for a second appearance?
I think Annika.
Okay. Yeah.
And what about you? Oh, okay. I think Annika is because I think...
big drama.
She's had quite a lot of drama. And I think it just made the show a lot more dramatic.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word.
For lack of a better word, the show likes drama.
Yeah.
Over great players. The show wants quotable, dramatic, photogenic players.
Yeah, like her expression when she got voted out. And also, I feel like this time she would have actually learned quite a lot from the first eviction.
Yes.
And she would come back. That would be a different... Perhaps, like a different arc. I think, that could be very well capitalized on.
I think Annika and Rome.
Yeah, Rome, definitely.
Rome is so entertaining, so divisive, so triggering. He's got to be invited back for something.
Okay.
He's a reality star.
So you don't think Gabe will be back?
Not before the others are invited. I don't... He played a good game, but he was kind of... forgettable. I'm sorry to say. There was nothing that he did that stood out to me as something significant, memorable, or distinct.
Yeah.
He played a very good game, but... and sometimes unpredictable, but in a way, nothing that I think the show will think, we need to have that guy back. His confessionals weren't that funny. I give his confessionals
I think if anything,
B+.
sometimes they were a little bit kind of like icky.
Yeah, a little bit grossed me out, the way he talked about people as his little birds and how I was going to control people. I don't know. In this climate, it may not go down well, but I think... Yeah. I don't know if he'll be back.
Okay. I think maybe...
And he's a good guy, though.
I think he's a good player.
He does a good Ray Lewis dance.
Simply because of the fact that he was a little bit salty at Tribal, and that was maybe the main drama point, was that he said snake to Caroline, he said, I'll be back, and then that kind of like, it gets people talking. And then maybe that's his intention. That's why he said it. It's like, well, I'm going to say something provoking, so that I get invited back.
Yeah. So what's going to happen next week? I think the big thing that's going to happen next week is Caroline v. Sue, right?
Yeah, that will be...
Caroline
that'll be interesting. I hope it's interesting. I mean, yeah.
I hope that's the drama.
Yeah.
That's going to be big, and maybe Kyle in there too.
Yeah, it's like kind of like seeing a train wreck happen in real time.
Yeah, except it's just like, say, Teeny and Genevieve this week, except... These personalities are just so much more combustible.
They're very different. And I had the thought just earlier while we were chatting, was that, okay, maybe Caroline saw like how Teeny and Genevieve kind of like resolve their relationship. And she thought that she could do the same with Sue. Yeah. But the thing is, they are very, very different personalities.
Sue is fiery, fiery woman. She's got a lot of pride, a lot of energy, a lot of,
I hope Sue goes all out. That would be fun.
I didn't realize how much she had until she talked about Kyle, but then I was scared.
Yeah,
blood is in the air.
Maybe that's all lead up into like her thing with Caroline.
Yeah. Shall we wrap it up there? I think it's been I think we covered most of the stuff we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I think so. So, guys, thank you so much for sitting with us. I hope you like the show. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Recreate Reality Podcast.
Please like and subscribe.
Yeah, by Michael and Teresa. You can find us on Recreate on TikTok and Instagram. That's WRECK.CREATE, where you can find funny short clips of what we've talked about. If you like what you hear, be sure to like and subscribe to our pod. It really helps us a big deal, and we are extremely grateful for any support you give. We'll be back shortly with the next episode, so stay tuned.
See you guys. Thank you. Bye.